This video is going to be a guide on Git and GitHub. Our team will be using GitHub as our main version control system for this year, as it allows us all to collaborate together with ease. Before we do get started, please make sure to visit this website, as it'll help walk you through downloading and setting up Git and GitHub on your personal device if you don't already have that set up. If you face any issues throughout this process, feel free to use our Discord channel to ask any questions that you have. Once you have made it through that article, just type out these commands to make sure that everything is installed and up to date. The first one is just checking the current version of Git, and then we can just check to see if our username and email is properly set up. So for me, everything looks like it's in order, and yeah, we should be good to start. Now that we know that Git is fully set up on our device, we can talk a little bit about how our team is going to be working with GitHub. As you can see, we have a bunch of repositories already made, so we won't be making any more new ones. And inside each of these repositories, we're just going to be holding that team-specific information. For the purposes of today, we're going to be working on the exoskeleton dummy repository that we can see right here. To begin working on our repository, the first step we have to do is clone the repository. Cloning basically means downloading the entire repository onto our laptop so that we can edit the files locally and then push our changes to GitHub. So the first thing we want to do is copy the link. I'm going to be copying the SSH link, and then head on over to our terminal. Once we are in our terminal, you're going to want to head on over to wherever you want to store the repository. So for me, I have a folder titled repos, so I'm going to go cd repos, and inside of here I'm going to go cd exo, and then in here I'm going to do this command, git clone, and then just paste the link I just copied. Once I do that, we can see that now I have successfully created a local version of the exoskeleton dummy repository. And to go into that, again, I can just go exoskeleton-dummy. And now I'm in the repository. Once you're in a repository that is tracked by GitHub, like the exoskeleton dummy repository, a command you can run is git status. Now what this does, it just checks the status of the repo at any given time. And right now what it's saying is that we're on the main branch and there's no other changes locally that we can push, and that everything is clean and up to date. Now let's say I want to go ahead and make some changes to the current state of this repository. The most important rule that I have to remember is before making any changes is to never work directly on the main branch. Instead, we always want to create a feature branch. What this allows us to do is just let us work safely without affecting anyone else's code and breaking anything. So what we can do is run this command, git checkout -b, and then in this field we can enter the name of our branch. So for example, I can go feature/testing demo. Once I press enter, we'll see that we've switched to a new branch called feature/testing demo. Now to check what branches I have locally, I can do the command git branch. And then I can see that I am currently on the feature/testing demo branch, and locally I also have a version of the main branch. Now that we are on our feature branch, let's go ahead and make a small change. So what I'm going to do is go into the README, and I'm just going to add a line saying this repo is for testing purposes only. And then I'm going to save these changes. Before I do that, anytime you edit a file in a repository that is tracked by Git and GitHub, Git will automatically track that change. So once I go ahead and save these changes, this will be recorded by Git. So if I was to run git status again, we'll see Git shows us exactly what we changed. So as we can see, Git tells us that we made changes to the readme.md. And now to save the change permanently, we first need to stage it. So what we do is we write this command, git add, and then over here, we'll go whatever file we want to add. In this case, it's the readme.md, so we just go readme.md and press enter. If we run git status again, we'll see now this file is staged. Staging basically means telling Git that yes, this file is ready to be saved. And we do that by using this command right here. Now that Git shows us that this file is in green, meaning it's staged and ready to commit, to actually save the change, we create a commit. And the command for that is git commit -m, and then in quotations, we write a message associated to the changes we made. So for example, what I did was just make a change to the README. So what I would do is write something along the lines of updated readme.md and then press enter. A commit is basically like a snapshot of your work. And this is how Git keeps track of every change that you make over time. So far, all of this is local on your machine. And to upload your work onto GitHub, we need to push our changes. In order to do that, we run the following command. Git push -u origin and then the name of our branch. So feature/testing_demo. And then we hit enter. So what we just did is publish our branch online, so whoever we are collaborating with has access to it as well and can see our changes. Now that our branch is pushed and available on GitHub, GitHub will detect it and suggest making a pull request, as we can see right over here. A pull request, or PR in short, is basically how you ask to merge your changes into the main branch. You can kind of think of it as submitting your work for review. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can actually go about creating a PR. You can either click this button right here, or we can head on over to the pull request page, click new pull request, and then select the branch that we were just working on. So in our case, that would be the feature/testing_demo. Once we do that, we make sure that this reflects the exact change we want to make, which is we want to merge feature/testing_demo into the main branch. Then we can take a quick look and verify that everything's correct. Once we do that, we can say create pull request. Here, just give your PR a clear title and a short explanation. For example, I'll title it updating readme, and in the explanation I'll say adding more information in readme. Once we have that done, you want to go ahead and usually assign a reviewer to review your PR, which would usually be your sub-team lead. For the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to pick Dylan. Once that's done and everything looks good, we can go ahead and create a pull request. One of the trickiest things that can come up when working with Git is called a merge conflict. So now we're going to try and create a merge conflict and then work our way around it. In order to do that, I'm going to quickly switch back over to the main branch. In order to do that, I literally just run a command called git switch, and then the name of the branch that I'm trying to switch to, which in this case is main. Now, as we can see, I am now on the main branch. And what I'm going to do is just edit the README and say trying to create a merge conflict. I will save these changes. And if I go git status, we'll see that one of my changes is unstaged So I'll quickly stage that change by doing git add readme.md, git commit -m, trying to create a merge conflict. Oops. There we go. And now I'm going to push this change. Now, if we go over back to our PR, we'll see that we now have a merge conflict that we need to resolve. So now what we've basically done is created a situation where two people or two instances have edited the same part of the file in two different manners, as we saw earlier. And to resolve this, there's actually a couple of ways to go about it. One of the ways to go about fixing these issues is when a conflict happens, GitHub will give us this button right here, Resolve Conflicts. Clicking it will show us both versions of the file, the head version from main and the incoming version from our feature branch. Now, we know that in this case, we only want to keep the version that we had in our feature branch. So what we do is we could just accept the current change. Basically, our main goal is to get rid of these conflict markers, being the equal sign, the arrows, and the arrows down here. So we can either go accept current change and it'll get rid of that for us, or we can manually just get rid of them right here. And then once we're done with that, we can just say mark as resolved and then commit merge. And boom, we've just handled a merge conflict. Another way we can go about handling merge conflicts is through the command line and an IDE of your choice, which is exactly what we're going to do. So I've already ran some commands here, and the first thing I did was make sure that I was on our feature branch that we've been working on. Then, just to get the latest version of that feature branch, I ran git pull. Now what we want to do is we need to pull the updated main branch into our feature branch. And to do that, we run the following two commands. First, we run git fetch origin, and then we merge origin/main into our branch. And as we can see, the result is the auto merge fails because of a merge conflict in readme.md. We have to fix the conflicts and then commit the result. Then we go over to an IDE of your choosing. And once we open up the readme.md, which is the file that has the merge conflicts, we'll see a similar sort of layout as we saw on the UI. Once again, our goal is to get rid of these conflict markers being the arrows and the equal sign. Similarly, again, we can either accept the current change, which would be the change that we made on our feature branch, which is what we want to do, accept the incoming change, which is the changes on main, or accept both changes. Once again, we can use the buttons up here, or we could get rid of the conflict markers ourselves. Once we have handled the merge conflicts in our file, we follow a similar process as we did earlier for pushing our changes. We can run git status again to see what files we have changed. And then in a similar fashion, we can do git add readme.md to stage this file. Once the file is staged, we can now commit our change, and we can have our message be something like resolve merge conflict in readme. Then we simply just push our changes once again. And now, if I were to go over to the PR again, we see that the merge conflicts have been handled, and we can merge our pull request. Now, all that's left for us to do is merge this pull request. Typically, you would have to wait for your reviewer to approve this PR, and only then would you be allowed to merge this PR. But for now, we can simply just merge this. Confirm merge. And if we go over to main, we'll see that our pull request has been successfully merged into main. Now, to get an updated version of main, what we will have to do is simply switch over to main branch and do git pull. And now everything is up to date and we are complete. To wrap up, here are some best practices that we'll all try and follow. So first things first, never work directly on main. Try and create a feature branch for every task. And try and keep the names for these branches short, clear, and descriptive. Try and commit often, as smaller commits are better than big ones because they're easier to break down and follow. Always pull before starting new work when you're on a branch, and open a pull request as soon as your task is ready. Try and ask for reviews early, and don't work alone on big changes. Ask for help whenever you need. Again, just to keep things clean, try and delete your branch after you merge your PR, and try and keep your local repo clean and up to date so you don't have to merge in changes when you're working on stuff later. But yeah, that's everything I have. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll leave some links in the description, specifically for setting Git and GitHub up on your local machine, as well as a cheat sheet for Git commands. Yeah, thank you guys for watching and have a great day.